What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man, Eric Sheets-Haber. We are going to be talking through tonight's NBA slate. I actually, early look, really like the slate. Obviously, based on how everything goes, it's just going to be kind of a little bit of a shit show later on. We know it's going to happen. Sheets has a program. I might have to adjust my playing style. Look, I've done well overall in this NBA season. I've been profitable. Not by a huge amount, but I've been profitable. But that's after 2 really bad weeks, and I just feel like sometimes I feel like I'm making bad late-minute decisions, and I'm sort of overreacting to news. Other times I feel like I've underreacted. Yesterday, I think I may have overreacted, and all my secondary lineups are crushing my high buy-in lineups over the last couple of weeks. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is because of this exact problem. I will leave some exposures to those other lineups, but I will not leave them in my big buy-ins. And all of my best scores. Last night, I can't totally complain. I had a shot to win the 200 last night. You know what I mean? That would have been 12K or whatever. That would have been nice. But I'm frustrated with the state of the NBA being like this. And I'm always sorry not to be on the last half hour, but it's like a scramble mode fest for myself. I do try to answer all the questions in Discord and go through that all the way through the last game locking. But it is really, really frustrating to play like this. And I really hope the NBA institutes some more rules as they did in the offseason with just for their own sake, for viewership, but for the betting side of it, it's become kind of crazy. And even if you're betting straight up on games, like you bet a team at -6, and by the time the game starts, they might be +4. Like, who knows? You know what I mean? And with a totally different lineup than you ever imagined. And I think that it actually overall should give people like me edge. And usually that's been my approach to it. It gives us edge. We make the better adjustments. We're going to be wrong sometimes, but we're going to be overall in the long run. We're going to give ourselves a chance to win tournaments. Obviously, it worked for you last week. You won a tournament. Obviously a huge tournament. You won on Sunday without all this stuff. But in general, I'm just frustrated. And it's easier to be frustrated when you're losing, but it's not the losing that's frustrating to me. And it's funny because even when I was winning, I was up at my family's house. I was winning every day, just consistently a couple thousand, 1,000, 3,000 profit. Like, it was just a really good streak. And it was still stressful. And absolutely, I felt like it was all consuming for me in a way that I didn't like. And I was constantly trying to dig and try and find the best answers to guys who I know who they are. And I guess that gives me a little bit of an edge, but the role they'll play on the team is so all over the place. And we just run into it every night. So I guess I'm just going to vent that frustration, not going to explain why I'm losing. I should be able to adjust better than average people. I should actually be able to adjust better than a lot of the guys with the algorithms, to be honest with you. So I take the blame, but it is not a fun experience to play the same way for me. And yes, that is on the heels of losing. But even when I was winning a lot this year, like it's just frustrating to me. Sorry.
So let me start with first of all from yesterday. So one thing that didn't change throughout the course of the day into the evening were the fact that Drummond and not Isaiah Stewart, not Isaiah Thomas, Isaiah
Jackson
remain, at least in my head, kind of like locks throughout the day.
That was locks throughout 6:15 Eastern because or 6:30 because they were Isaiah Jackson was going to be a good long shot tournament play at zero ownership, and you announced all your 3 big men out, and you have no other big men. They're going to play. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. So hold on. So I had that, and then what happened was you left. So this was really interesting, and this is kind of an interesting philosophical question about the way ownership kind of adjusts to late news. So just literally about 15 minutes after you left, Trae Young was ruled out. Okay, so there was 10 minutes to go before the 7 o'clock lock, and I actually had to go. Actually, it was 6:40. I had to go in like 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, do I just ignore it? No, I can't ignore it. I just have to kind of deal with it. So I scrambled. I redid my projections. I redid everything. And with 8 minutes left, and I was talking through this online, I said, okay, so all right, so obviously DeLon Wright will be 100% owned, and
no.
Well, hang on.
Yeah, sorry.
And I'm like, and Herter's going to be 100% owned, and it just makes perfect sense to me. And I looked at this, and I looked at my lineups, and I'm like, oh, you know what, whatever, I'll just eat the chalk, and I'll just freaking go. Okay, up we go. And then when I went back, and I came back later, and I saw that DeLon Wright was like basically 10% or 15%. And Kevin Huerter was literally 7% in my thing. I was actually confused.
Bogdanovich was 4%.
Right. So I was actually confused to the point where I went and double checked to make sure that Trey wasn't actually playing, you know? And and maybe it was just a function of, I don't know, the way builds were going to happen or whatever it was, or maybe just people just overthink it, out talk themselves into it. But and Wright didn't play the fourth quarter. So whatever it was, and he still ended up with 24 fantasy points, and Herder smashed. I mean, but not even. I mean, he got like 36 fantasy points. I wonder if the later the news. I used to think the later the news, the more people react to it, right? Just because it's the last thing they remember. But I actually was very surprised that the Hawks ownership was not higher.
I wasn't the least bit surprised. Because I don't think that that's a product of any of these things. They were the healthiest team coming into the day. Now, of course, it's an incredible amount of usage to use, and somebody is going to have a game. But they were going to play an 11-man rotation.
Okay.
They had 5 guards who they were going to mix in, including Brendan Goodwin and other guys who they did their normal thing. They didn't overplay anybody minutes. So I actually think the Hawks value, just even after that, just rated them worse than all the other value. But I understand your point you're making, and I do think that it's interesting. Sometimes the late news, people don't react to it enough, and other times they don't react to it enough when there's other good value, like yesterday. But I mean, I did. I mean, I reacted to it. I played DeLon Wright in one of my 2 big buy-ins on FanDuel. I played Bogdan in one of my 2 600s on DraftKings, and they were fine. But there was just so many other value spots that you were going to need $1 million to win last night, and it forced in guys like Steph Curry, who you could have gotten as a really low owned play. You know, if there was 5 less injuries instead of the 20, there was 15. You know, anyway. But I just think it's interesting and stuff we should keep tracking on, and I'm going to try to do better. And even if it means maybe I come on the air a little before you at 5:45 or something like that, and then I do it until the 30 minutes, because I do need that last 30 minutes.
Yeah,
at the same time, I would like to go through the different possible scenarios and maybe do a better job with that. So anyway, that's just food for thought, guys. I'm interested in your thoughts. Feel free to comment and chat. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that stuff. And with that said, Sheets, are you ready to get into this slate?
Not quite. One other thing I wanted to say is that I posted this in the Discord as well, but as long as I'm thinking about it, we're straying for a little bit. I want to try, and I continue to try to just in the name of transparency, talk about the things that I'm trying to learn, the things that I'm looking at, even offsite, especially offsite. And I mentioned this a couple of times that Saberson had put out a video that was titled "Why Game Stacking in the NBA does not provide enough upside." And I was looking forward to kind of watching it, and I was and I told everybody about it, whatever it is. And I even went into Discord today, said, "What?" And I saw there was like an hour and 45-minute video. And I'm like, okay, I can't wait to go through this, because I struggle with this all the time and report back. And it turns out it was a big hour and 45-minute video of a zillion different topics, of which like the thing was like 5 minutes or something like that. So it was a little, but I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm going to start posting stuff that at least I'm trying to learn, because that one particular thing is something that I struggle with, about how much to stack and this, that, and the other thing. So just again, on a site level, even if we're not talking about it, even if we're not doing it exactly on the site, I'm still going to continue to refer you to other places, because if that's where I'm looking, again, I think that's what you guys want to do too. So that's it.
Right. And we should talk more about that stuff. And like, we got a question yesterday while we were on that was a good question. It was like, well, are you afraid of the Isaiah Jackson's foul trouble? If Isaiah Jackson was 7K, I would have been afraid of potential foul trouble, but I'm never going to worry about foul trouble, for example, for a guy less than 5K. Right. Yeah. Things like that. And there's certain, but the rules are ever changing. The game is ever changing. It's partly what's great about the game. It's partly what's sometimes really frustrating. But this is an all over the place situation every night, basically. And we have to just do our best to provide the best we can and to do the best we can with our own lineups. And I think in our little community, we've overall done well, but I think we can improve and we can do better.
So this is my one brag from yesterday. So I won the whatchamacallit, the tennis GPP, which basically reduced my
beautiful.
NBA.
That's right. Beautiful.
Reduced my NBA losses in half. So that's
who cares about the wins and losses? Just keep the winning streak alive. The good things are going to happen.
Something like that. Okay, so let me pull up the NBA thing, and we'll just start game by game, and we'll get after it.
Yep, we'll do it. And this is gonna. I feel this is gonna be a very good month for our true DFSers. We don't have as much other stuff that we're now back to golf and basketball. And boy, who would have thought that golf is like the one sport, no matter what, I seem to at least no matter what, at least eke out a profit every week and always have a shot at the big one. It's every single week that it's been like that. So I'm actually really excited to do a golf show with you and a special guest coming out. Oh, sorry, my sound is a little bit off. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Sheets. So let's start off with the game. The first game, New Orleans and Detroit. What are your sort of overall thoughts on this one? I feel like this is a weird spot with the back-to-back for New Orleans. I would not be surprised at all to see a bunch of guys sit. They may not be on the report, but as of right now, I am going to think at least somebody sits, and we're probably going to have Hernan Gomez questions back in our lives. We're probably going to have Devontae Graham and Nickeil Alexander-Walker chances that we should take. But as of right now, the only guys who really make much sense on the current point are Valanciunas and Hart. And I just don't know on a back-to-back on a team playing for nothing what I want to do in this situation. So that's my sort of thoughts. What do you think about this game? Are you there? Are we there?
I really hope that we don't have to cut out, because I do want this, at least that first part that we talked about before we went into game by game to go up on the site.
I don't know what happened. My internet looks to be okay.
Yeah, it might be mine is what I'm saying. So we'll just see. I don't have anything to add to the New Orleans Detroit game yet. As it currently stands, I don't really like anything. But like I said, if they sit Valanciunas, then it's Hernan Gomez season again, as the kids like to say. And we just have to kind of wait and see. And fortunately, it's the first game of the day, so we will be able to notice. But right now, I don't really have much interest in the New Orleans Detroit game on either side at all.
Yeah, I don't mind the Cade Cunningham play on Detroit. And I just think that's something we're going to be in play every single night on. It's a little worse when you get guys like Olynyk, because, it's odd. They actually run like a lot of stuff through Olynyk when he does play. And he's been playing lately, but with him, you get the huge range of outcomes. But I mean, he had a 40% usage rate the other day. That's like LeBron and Harden type of stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think Isaiah Stewart is a good long shot play at early look, but Cade is the one I would. You mentioned it the other day about Cade. He's going to have some up and down games. He's a rookie. These things happen, but he does so many different things on the court that the ceiling is just so monstrous. So I think no matter what happens, he's definitely going to be a guy who I'm trying to get to tonight. All right, Washington, Milwaukee. What do you got?
So this is, at least first look, the main game for me. Yep. With what's his name out, all these guys from Washington are going to pop, and I'm just going to list them in, I want to say no particular order. I guess these are the order. So I got Thomas Bryant, Spencer Dinwiddie, Avdia, Harrell, and Kispert. I don't want to play, I guess, Harrell and Bryant together. So one of those two with Dinwiddie, Avdia, Kispert, and run it back with Giannis and hope the game stays close. That would be my first attempt at this slate. An additional.
We got a little cutout, a little choppy action going on. Go ahead.
Okay, so I don't know where I left off. I guess I'll start the whole game over. This is the first game that.
No, not the first. You mean the Washington and Milwaukee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the first. My initial view on the slate is this is what I want to do. With Beal out, all these guys show up as really strong plays in Washington. So I'm going to list them here. So Dinwiddie, and then one of the two bigs, Bryant or Harrell, and then Avdia and Kispert. And maybe run it back with Giannis, hope the game stays close. That seems to be the pure way to play today. In addition to that, Milwaukee, Dante Divincenzo I have is kind of a decent one-off. That's kind of where I'm at with this game. I think it's
shit. Sorry for the technical difficulties, guys, but we are back in business here. We got Sheets' thing back on track, so we're going to pick up with the Washington-Milwaukee game, which Sheets was saying that it does seem like the first obvious spot you want to get a lot of pieces of, and there's a lot of guys who project well, but could cross paths with each other, so you kind of want to make your decisions. So you didn't like anything on the Milwaukee side?
To hope the game stays close. And then I also liked a one-off of Dante Divincenzo. Mm-hmm. I haven't played him like all year. Just happens to be showing up today, so I just figured I would mention it.
Yeah, I don't know where I stand with Divincenzo. It feels a little thin for the kind of value that we can get potentially, but he's playing more minutes. They're still bringing him along slowly. I like Drew Holiday as a run back, because I do think you're going to want pieces, and I'll get into the Washington stuff in a minute. But like, I actually think that there's enough room for him to have a big game here. It's a soft defense. The price is fair on Holiday. We've seen him be at times a much higher, higher cost player. I also don't mind if you want to do the Giannis, if you're going to play like 3 or 4 Washington players. I think that just for what it's worth, I think it's very sketch. The whole Washington situation is very sketchy because we don't have it like we did earlier this year, where if these guys were out, and even then the guys didn't really come through for us that much. It's really hard to see like the 50% ownership probably on Avdia and things like that. So, but I still, I mean, again, can't ignore these guys. The priority is Dinwiddie. And I think that Kuzma is a good play. So I would say one of Dinwiddie or Kuzma, unless it's a game stack that you want to do. And then I would say, I guess so. I have Avdia, Kispert, KCP, or Rui. One of those 4 as interesting. I would lean Avdia, but I don't think it's like a smash. You have to do that one. And then you have the Bryant or Harrell thing. I think I would lean Bryant, but it's really close between those 2 for me. And again, because there's so many names, then Aaron Holiday, Raul Neto, they have a lot of bodies. Like, it's just a good pace game against Milwaukee. And some of these guys who are projected for 20 minutes are going to play 30, and some of the guys who are projected for 30 are going to play 22. So it's all over the place, and they really haven't shown. They really look like they know that Rui's at least some part of their future, and they haven't given him 20 minutes since he's come back. So guys like that are a little bit thinner, but at the same time, we'll get lower ownership because of it. It's going to be one we have to revisit, or I have to revisit at 6, because right now it's very hard to know what to do with these guys for me. And I think that we'll find out other information that's going to knock some of them sort of out of good play range. But I would say Avdia, Dinwiddie, Kuzma, one of Bryant or Harrell are the best plays there. What are your thoughts on Miami, Toronto?
Well, I mean, who's playing, right?
That's a big
Lowry
one.
Lowry was personal yesterday. I don't know what that means for today.
He's been out. Yeah.
Butler was out due to toe issues. I mean, it's just silly to speculate. I mean, if both of them are out, then all the other Miami guys come back into play. And if 1 or 2 of them are in, then they're, if they're both in, then probably none of them are in play. If one of them's in, then that person's probably in play. You just have to wait and see. It's really nothing to speculate on. But Bam is probably still a good play regardless of who's playing. So I like that. And on Toronto, I'll take my 47 minutes out of Fred VanVleet and Siakam. Not the greatest matchup in the world, obviously, but they look like good plays to me. So Fred VanVleet, Siakam on Toronto, Bam on Miami, plus whatever else happens injury-wise.
Yeah, so a road travel back-to-back going to Canada during COVID times feels like we should know earlier who's going to play at least. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We had it happen once earlier this season with Utah, where Rudy Gay was traveling with the team and everything, and for some reason was out for rest. I don't understand. I don't think guys should travel if they're not going to play in these situations to Canada. Yeah. It's a nightmare. I don't get it. I thought it was interesting last night that Bam basically just like they were down 30 in the 4th, and they left Bam and Hero in until about, I think it was 4 or 5 minutes to go. And that was a little bit sort of shocking to see. So it does feel up in the air. I have a feeling that maybe this is a game where you do get Butler and Tucker to play again. If that happens, if Butler plays, I want Jimmy Butler. And if he doesn't, I want Bam and or Hero. It is a tough back-to-back though, and I'm a little like, my early lean is, hey, bet Toronto. I know Toronto it's a back-to-back for them, but playing at home in Canada is very different than going on the road back-to-back in Canada with the player situation in flux. So my early lean would be it right now. Go and bet Toronto -2.5. I think or just even money line it at -130. I think it is, or something like that. And then on the Toronto side, it's the same thing as always. I don't think Lowry's going to play, which makes Fred VanVleet an awesome play. Every day, Fred VanVleet or Pascal Siakam are great plays. And one of my biggest frustrations and what ended up, being sort of the determining factor for a lot of my slates, especially on FanDuel, was I loved Gary Trent yesterday. I had Gary Trent in my initial builds. Those of you who look at the site, I think he was in 75% of my original builds. It sort of fell by the wayside because of the other value that opened up. Gary Trent again put up 46. He's now had 4 games in a row over 40. He's 5,800 on DK, and he is getting really expensive on FanDuel. But I think he's actually in play on both sites. I think he's a good play on DraftKings right now. I think that he, with or without one of Siakam or Van Vliet, are very interesting to me. And then I don't mind a long shot on the other 2 million-minute guys, the Anunoby and Barnes, but I don't feel like anybody's a must, except for I feel like you should like every night you should want one of the guys from Toronto in a game that's supposed to be close. So, or you should at least be interested in it. But again, not massive priorities for me. Just guys who are out there. Trent or Van Vliet. Trent, Van Vliet, or will probably be in my DraftKings lineups, or Siakam. But as far as FanDuel, I'm still not sure about that one yet because the prices are a little different and there's other guys. So we can move on to Orlando, Chicago.
Okay.
Maybe a little revenge game.
Yeah, and I actually went back and I checked. So Wendell Carter Jr. was traded mid-season last year. I just wanted to see if he got a chance to go back to Chicago last year and what the results were, and I found it. So April 14th, which is about a couple of months or so after he got traded, they went back to Chicago, and first of all, they were on the road. They got a 9-point win on the road, coming off of. So I want to pull this up here. So this is Wendell Carter's results from last year.
Pull it up.
So you have. See, on April 11th, they played Milwaukee and lost by 37 points. Then April 12th, they went and lost by whatchamacallit to the Spurs by 23 points.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went into Chicago and won by 9.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 18 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists. This is not a fantasy point site, but it doesn't take a genius to figure out that that's a game that we're going to want. Okay.
Right.
And this is the first game this year going back to Chicago. I'm in. Not to mention he does project well also, so that's good as well. So I do like him. I like I was about to say Terrell Suggs. I like Suggs for Orlando as well. And on the Chicago side, I like DeRozan and I like Vooch. Actually, this is a decent little game actually. Now that I think about it, I mean, look, Chicago's probably going to be a decent sized favorite. But who cares? I'll take a shot.
Yeah, I like everything that you said there, and I'm glad you did that because I was going to do the same thing. And I do think Wendell, but also even in the role he had last year, he was like playing high 20s minutes, and then they played him 30, almost like he had more minutes than he had every other game surrounding him, basically. The usage was higher. All of these things are just little extra reasons, not to mention they lowered his price finally. So I really do like Wendell Carter. His downfall would be if Suggs or Anthony gets hot or a blowout, and Wagner, I guess you could throw into that conversation. And I like all of those guys, but they all rate for me sort of to be medium-ish plays and guys I probably am going to get exposure to, but nobody's a must. But I do like Anthony, Suggs, and Wagner. You do have Terrence Ross back in the mix, and it's probably the wrong kind of a slate, but he's going to be the kind of guy we're going to look for, and we're going to force in occasionally, even when there's other good value, just because the upside is going to be there for a guy like him, and no one's going to play him off the bench in general. But I'm just mentioning that for what it is. I also think that Mo Bamba is always a good tournament play. But on Chicago, pretty hard for me to find something that I really am crazy about. I think that my favorite play would probably be DeRozan. But I don't have a strong take on basically anyone on Chicago. I will Levine, Vooch, DeRozan. One of those three almost always gets there. If I had to pick, I'm going to guess DeRozan, and followed by Levine because it's a good matchup for Levine. You also get Vooch against his former team, but it's at home. It's a little different than going back there. So maybe you could do a Carter Vooch lineup or something like that, just for funds. You don't necessarily do it in the big one, but it's a viable play too. So I don't know which one of the Chicago guys I'm going to go with. I think right now I lean DeRozan, but I like all three of them. You want to start off Denver and Milwaukee?
Yeah. first thing about this game is, so you have Minnesota as a 4-point favorite.
Denver, Minnesota, excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, Minnesota's a 4-point favorite over Denver. I like Minnesota in this spot, actually. I think they're playing pretty well, and I kind of like them. I might put this in that bet file that I keep forgetting to do. I also think this is a tough defensive matchup for Jokic. I think the Cat could have a really big game here. He comes off a triple-double in his last game. And I think he could blow up here.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously like Jokic as well. Cat's the Coors of his own self, as you mentioned. You know what I mean? Like, he can score a lot of points, and Jokic score a lot of points too. It's kind of hard to play them both for price reasons and to take up the center and utility. But I think both of them are primed to have good games here. And the other guy I like in this game, I like Will Barton a little bit for Denver. So those are my main guys. It's kind of silly to not mention it. I mean, Anthony Edwards is basically always in play. But I think Cat's almost a priority. I don't know. I really like him a lot in this spot.
I think it's interesting. So I think Jokic is like the best play on. I mean, look, obviously that's not like anything groundbreaking, but I don't think you're going to get a ton of ownership on him. As much as you're saying about Cat, I think the same thing is true for Jokic.
Yep.
We like to attack Jokic, and I love the Cat play because, again, these guys are going to be unowned, and there is no reason.
You don't think people are going to play Cat off the triple-double at 9-8?
Not against a team that doesn't give up points to centers.
Okay.
I mean, I my first look at projections has them at 2%. And
make that 2.01.
There you go. There's one more for you. I actually like the Cat idea as well. But I agreed with most of what you said. I like Jokic number one. I like Barton number two. I'm not gonna do like the Jeff Green. He's gonna have some nights where he gets there. I just don't do that thing very often.
No.
He's gonna get some minutes tonight, but it's just not my thing. Yeah, maybe I'll reconsider and throw him into one lineup, but it will not be a priority play.
Oh, you have Russell out. I need to see that.
Russell's going to be out. Actually, that's going to increase Cat's ownership. And Beverly is questionable as always. If Beverly plays, I like Beverly. But I like Cat, and if you're not playing Cat, I like Edwards. This is a huge total game, and one of these guys should have a monster performance, and they're probably going to get a lot more ownership than the current projections have them because they're not accounting for Russell out yet. But you're going to mix in, if Beverly is out also with Russell out, I think you're going to mix in a little bit of Beasley and Jalen Noel. So just going to have to wait to hear about the Beverly news, but we definitely want to have exposure to. This is the second. No, it's actually the highest total game on the slate. So I like all the guys you said. You want to start us off with Golden State and San Antonio?
Well, one other thing I kind of strayed when we talked about when you mentioned that Russell was out. Are we gonna have to play the point guards from Minnesota? You mentioned Noel.
Yeah, I mentioned Noel, and then also I think that Malik Beasley gets a chance too.
Right. Okay. Golden State, San Antonio.
Yep. Go ahead with it.
I don't have much. I mean, boy, it's kind of stupid, right? I was gonna say, well, I don't want to play guys off ceiling games to say that about Curry, right? But the fact is, I mean, it's the best Curry's performed in like a while, and the fact of the matter is that it was a perfect get right spot, playing Houston, and it is a back-to-back, and I know we talk about maybe not playing jump shooters on back-to-backs. Now again, Curry's not even a jump shooter; he's just a freaking generational freak. You know what I mean? It's not like I don't want to ding Curry because it's a back-to-back.
Right.
Rather not. Nonetheless, I don't like him all that much today. I like the value guys a little more. I like Looney a little bit, Poole a little bit. Nothing great though. And San Antonio, I'll go back to after Dashante Murray got his day off. I think he's playable at 10.
Go ahead. So Dashante Murray. Sorry for the technical stuff, guys. It's just a little shaky. It must be from that crazy weather you guys have out there. So Dashante Murray, you said you were getting into Dashante Murray before we stopped.
Yeah, I just think that he's playable at 10-1, not a priority, but I don't mind.
Yeah, I think Curry's going to be popular, and I think that he's a good play. They dropped. He goes from 11 to 10-2 after having the big game. Obviously they can't keep track of that. But I like Otto Porter, and I like Jordan Poole as my other two favorites here. I do think that there's some room for one of these other. Kuminga might play barely any minutes. He might play a ton of minutes. You might see Gary Payton out there for a bunch of minutes. So I think trying to mix in some of their value is a good idea. Also, it allows you to sort of delay the slate. On the San Antonio side, I think Dashante is fine, and I think Derek White is a really good play. I think Keldon Johnson is in play, but I would say White or Keldon Johnson, and I'm fine with Murray. I just don't. I don't see it as being like the best play on the slate, but I think it's a fine play. So we can move on to Brooklyn Phoenix.
Yeah, I like the Brooklyn Phoenix game. I like Harden.
Mm-hmm. You like Harden a little bit. You were starting off with.
So Brooklyn, I like Harden and Claxton. Phoenix, I like Booker, and then Cam Johnson, and one of the two, McGee and Bismack Biyombo.
Okay, so Brooklyn, I like. I'm fine with Harden. I'll put it that way. I don't love it. I feel good. I feel good about Claxton. I like Harden better when he plays with KD than I do with Kyrie. It seems like a lot of similar usage things. And sure, he's had some games, but he had more of them the other way. I like the Claxton call a lot. I think that there's a lot of upside for him here. And James Johnson's been playing really well, but I don't think I'm going to do it with all these guys playing. Phoenix, people might shy away from Cam Johnson a little bit. I don't think so, but it's 5-4 now. It's a little more expensive to play him. And I think it's fine. I still, for whatever reason, am having trouble clicking the Bismack Biyombo button in matchups that don't involve other bigs, but he's been pretty consistently good. Can't really argue that. So I probably won't do it, but I certainly don't mind if you want to. And Devin Booker is going through just a sick run here. Both he and Chris Paul, without campaign out there, have really, really taken on the reins as just dominating every game. I think they take this one seriously. So I think you're going to get low ownership on Chris Paul and medium ownership on Booker. But I think, trying to play one of those guys, especially because it's the late game, is definitely a reasonable way to go. So I like that quite a bit, actually. If you think about it, just in terms of Kyrie versus these guys have consistently been producing in the, high 50s, 60s, and 70s lately. And we haven't really seen that much of that from Kyrie yet. So I would rank them a little bit ahead of Kyrie. And I do think Harden's fine, but I don't think it's like a priority for me. All right, so let's go through real quick. I'm going to go through my main things to look at. I think Dinwiddie is the easiest play on the slate. I think that going in game order, I like Cade and Kuzma. I like one of Bryant or Harrell, one of the four guys we talked about, Abdia, Kispert, KCP, or Rui, but I don't think that it's like a must that you play any of those guys. I think one of Holiday or Giannis at low ownership is appealing, but probably not as good as the other guys we've got. Butler, Bam, or Hero, depending on who's playing. Obviously, we need to wait on that. Trent, Fred VanVleet, or Siakam will probably be, on my DraftKings lineups, regardless of who's playing. Wendell Carter Jr. is going to be a guy I want to get a lot of pieces of with running it back, and I don't mind if you want to play him with one of Wagner, Anthony, or Suggs. I like to run back for Vooch or DeRozan a little bit ahead of Levine, but I like all of them. Jokic and this Minnesota situation, meaning one of Cat or Edwards with Beverly if he's in, or Noel if he's not. That would be a priority, along with Derek White and CP3 or Booker. Anything that you want to add before we get out of here?
The Orlando-Chicago game, I reiterate the Denver-Minnesota, either Cat or Jokic. And I'm obviously that Washington-Milwaukee game is kind of the easiest play. But we didn't talk about. Are you do you want to run that back with Giannis or no?
I mentioned Giannis.
Okay.
Holiday or Giannis I think is okay, but I would
Holiday. You mentioned that. Okay.
I would rather play Jokic than Giannis, but I think both of them, low owned and with a huge chance of succeeding, and then you don't have to use your other center spot. So I do think that's a really a reasonable way to go. Anyway, guys, sorry for the technical difficulties. I'll be here at 6 o'clock Eastern. Sheets, are you going to be around? We're going to take that as a maybe. So hopefully it's me.
Yes, I'm in.
Okay, good. So we'll see Sheets at 6 Eastern, and we'll see you guys later on today. Again, sorry for technical difficulties. We'll work it out. And let's make some money today, guys. Good luck, everybody.